chapters in 18 countries. There's 15,000 members. And they've helped thousands and thousands of startups. This TiEQuest 2020 is a program of TI Toronto, the Toronto chapter, whose mission is to foster entrepreneurship and to encourage and nurture the next generation of entrepreneurs. We focus on that through education, mentoring, networking, funding. It's really a give back organization, and TiEQuest is our feature competition. So it's a multi-stage business venture competition for early stage companies. We've got companies, and usually at the beginning we have about 100 companies, and we take them through 4 different stages of judging with a hope to find a grand prize winner, but more importantly, to expose all of the companies to people who can help them, whether they be investors, potential customers, strategic partners, or what have you. So that's really why, in some ways, we're excited about opening up TiEQuest 2020 to Zoom and a Zoom audience, because usually on those Saturday mornings, we'd only get, the judges, the 5 or 6 judges in the room would see these companies and see how exciting their futures are. But now we can broadcast it and expose them to many more companies. Last year's winner was Genesis. This is a company that produces plastic that's biodegradable, so it's really a transformative technology. And since winning last year's TiEQuest, they've raised almost $5 million, gone into partnerships. They're starting to build their demonstration plant. I mean, these guys have been rocking, and TiEQuest was a big part of that journey. We've had other success stories too. I'm sure you'll recognize some of these logos and companies that we've touched over the years. And we're pretty excited about the 25 that are in the competition now, because we know there's going to be another great logo to go on this board. So here's what's happened to date. We started back in December, opened up applications. They had a couple months to apply. We got, like I said, about 100 applications. We did a mentoring workshop. And then on March 7th, we did the first round with the second round, we did a first round of online judging and pared it back down from 100 to 50. And then on March 7th, we had 50 companies show up and do live pitches, and we took it down from 50 to the 25 you have tonight. So, and we've talked about this. So we've talked about the schedule. So every night this week plus Monday, and then the finals on the 29th. So here's what's going to happen. Each company is going to get 10 minutes to pitch. There's going to be 10 minutes of Q&A, and then there'll be 5 minutes between each pitch so the judges can fill out their scorecards and make comments. And I would ask the judges to, please make comments. It's very important because at the end of the day, particularly for the companies that don't move ahead, those comments are some of the most valuable things that they'll get out of this competition. After it's all over, we'll ask our audience to leave. The judges will have a chance to talk to one another and come up with a winner for tonight for this group. And we will announce the winner tomorrow night before tomorrow night's broadcast. This is the scoring rubric that we use. The judges have it, the companies have it, but for our audience, just so you know, these are the things that they're looking for. And as I said earlier, our finals, our gala takes place on June 29th, 2 weeks tonight, 7 p.m. It's free. So please come, please register. You can see the link right there on the slide. And that's it. So I think we should invite our first company in and get started. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
You're ready to share, Duncan.
Okay.
Hi, Duncan. You got 10 minutes. and then there'll be 10 minutes of Q&A, and it's all yours. So go for
Okay,
it.
thanks very much. So good evening, everybody. My name is Duncan Rowland. I'm representing the company migrations.ml, and I'll tell you a bit about why we're here, how we're solving the problem, and our progress to date. So we are a company that produces predictive credit risk analytics for capital markets and also for private debt companies. So the problem that we identified is something that comes with the 20 plus years that I spent in capital markets in Toronto and overseas. And that is just simply what you see here, that the credit risk analysis process in the bond market is very manual. The bond market is growing immensely. It's probably going to hit 10 trillion. I'm talking, sorry, in the US corporate bond market, it's probably going to hit $10 trillion this year. There's usually about 1,500 corporate bonds in the US issued every year. So it's much bigger than the stock market. And then, as most of you are well aware, there's low interest rates. So you don't get a lot of juice for your investment. And interest rates are going to stay low. Some of you probably recall Fed Chairman Jay Powell saying yesterday, we're not even thinking of raising interest rates. So what that means then is if you are a bond investor and an asset manager or a hedge fund or investment bank, it means that you are trying to analyze an ever-growing asset pile, and that costs money to do so. There's a lot of product out there that you're missing out on. And chances are you're not being compensated for the risk that you're taking, because if you feel that you need to go down the credit ladder in order to get better interest rates, chances are you're going to be investing in more risky assets, and you're just not going to get paid for that extra risk. And certainly the ultimate risk to a bond investor, fixed income asset manager, is that investment goes completely bad, defaults, and you lose your money. And there's no, you don't usually get second chances on that type of event. So what do we do? So essentially we take the concept of fixed income analysis and portfolio management, and we apply the latest technology to it. And the latest technology is AI, or machine learning, the subset of AI. The fundamentals of bond analysis and portfolio analysis are taking in lots and lots of data, using the computer up here to be able to predict what will happen to that bond. And so machine learning is essentially the taking in of a lot of and carefully selected training data and using it to create predictions. And so in the bond market, there is a lot of data. I'll talk a little bit about the quality of that data, but there is a lot of data, and there have been default events, and therefore you are able to generate a predictive output about the quality of bonds. And as long as you're able to bring in as much data, as much bonds as you can, then you can actually produce signal for those assets. And so you can actually take on and supplement the role of a credit analyst and the portfolio manager. And so what you end up with, and my experience has always been, you end up with spending less time gathering data, managing that data, massaging that data, and you spend more time actually analyzing it and evaluating it and executing trades. And that's really what you're paying these people. And you're paying people a lot. That's really what you're paying these people for. So a couple of slides here just to prove to you this is not a figment of my imagination, or this is an actual product. And there is a link embedded in this presentation that takes you to an actual demo video. But we do all sorts of functionality. We don't just provide a single number. We provide time series so you can see trend lines. We actually are able to drill into the results so that you can see the drivers of the probability of default figures that we calculate. So whether it's the volatility of the underlying share price, for example, or the balance sheet, or the quality of the cash flows. So, which makes it that much more richer and much more valuable, because it's one thing to be able to say, make a prediction, But if you can't explain why it's making that prediction, then the quality and the value of that is significantly decreased. So how big is this market? Well, I alluded to the size of the fixed income market. The fixed income market is large, and therefore the size of the market that we're attacking is quite large as well. The US corporate bond market is 40% of the size of the global corporate bond market. And the concentration of asset managers is in New York and San Francisco and Toronto. And there are a lot of these asset managers. It's not, that number there, 10,000, is from research that we did with some help from Bloomberg and from IHS Markit. And all of them can benefit from what we built for those reasons that you see on the screen there. I mean, greater returns, but more efficient, gaining them more efficient. So on our advisor board, we have a number of ex-bond traders, ex-bond salesmen. So that gives us reach into the buy side of the fixed income market. In the USA, we have a network, and just before COVID-19, we were about to contract with a sales agent in New York, a company that has done work, basically the US sales work for the TMX for a number of years. And you'll see below that prior to COVID-19, we were actually starting to get some traction. So we do have a licensee, a hedge fund here in Toronto. We had proposals out to two lending marketplaces in the USA. Those got stalled, but they're not dead. We're still talking with those folks. So the company started about 18 months ago after I left RBC. So as you see here, if you go to our website, you go to the product page, there is a video that shows how to use the product. We have attracted investment from angels and a few former colleagues of mine. And then we've been able to grow the company to take on the complexity. And so we've been able to bring on a number of experienced market participants over the past few months, taking advantage a little bit of the COVID-19 situation. But it just shows that people of this quality are willing to join the team because they believe in the product and they believe in the concept of what we're doing here. There's a bit of a summary of the team. I'll highlight, we have a very prestigious professor of finance at the University of Toronto who has written and researched credit risk and defaults for 20 years, a founder who had a very successful exit, and then a fellow who was the former head of research and innovation at CPPIB and had worked at Barclays Global Investors. Very experienced, terrific bunch of people as well. Actually, it is, even though we're all working remotely, it is a lot of fun working with them all. So financials. So I'm a chartered accountant by trade. I tend to focus very much on doing proper cash flow projections, managing the money. I work for free. A number of people are working for options. We don't have a workplace anymore. And on the slide there, you can see our run rate and the projected run rate when we're at full tilt. So we have a sticker price of US 5,000 per month for a research or risk management trading strategy. People we target at around 8,000 US a month, and we get these price points from our advisors. Again, the fellow who ran his own company certainly helps a lot with projections on that. The bullets there tell the story in terms of what it would take for us to be able to cover our run rate, and it's not a lot, quite frankly. But so you may ask, who is our competition? The first one that usually comes to mind to folks is Bloomberg. There's our S&P, Capital IQ, Moody's KMV. There is a company based out of Hawaii called Kamakura. I think our main target or counter against these guys is that we are strictly about about credit risk and about defaults. We don't try to sell other products. We don't, we're not trying to be all and everybody.
Duncan, I hate to do it, but we're at 10 minutes. Is there, if you want to just take 10 seconds to wrap up, and but I'm going to turn it over to our panel to ask some questions.
Sure. There's a very quick timeline of what we've done since February of 2019. We are producing additional data sets, predictive bond pricing and relative value and predictive CDS spreads. We have 2 proposals going this week. We were invited to submit proposals to, excuse me, one is a data provider for the ETF industry, and another is a lending marketplace based in the United Kingdom. I can tell you, I met the sales cycle for the United Kingdom one was 4 weeks. I sent out cold emails on Victoria Day weekend, and they wanted to get to know us, and so now we've had 3 dates, and we're submitting a proposal.
So I'm going to interrupt there, unfortunately. So
Sure.
I'm going to turn it over to our judges. Sorry, I didn't introduce Andrea Lepescu of Sapling Financial and Parneet Dell of RBC. I lost one. I don't know what happened to Mahendra.
I'm here. I just, you don't have my mugshot.
Okay, and we have Mahendra Naik, who is the president of TiE Toronto. So who's got a question?
Yeah, it's Mahendra. I'll start with a question.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, Duncan, thank you very much. I mean, this is a very sophisticated product and service that you're developing. I'm not sure even the average investor will fully appreciate what you're trying to do. So the obvious question I have is this just focused on corporate debt, whether it's publicly traded debt or private debt? Is it just corporations, or would it extend to individual as well?
So for the moment, it's focused on corporate bonds because that's where the data is, and that's where the defaults have occurred. Provincial bonds, hasn't been much default activity in the last 100 years. The private debt market is growing like crazy. You can see it at the bottom of the slide there. It's expected to grow to 52 billion in the UK alone. It's very popular in the UK and Europe. We don't have immediate plans to branch out to other types of debt. However, we do have plans to branch out to other geographies, to go to the UK and Europe and then on to APAC.
Right. Emerging market debt and things like that, because that's a whole other area. Okay.
Yeah, and also in the retail debt side, there has been a lot of activity, and there's a lot of people who are working on credit card debt, mortgage debt, and things like that. And there's a lot more data for those folks, and the banks have a lot of that data themselves, so they are attacking it themselves. So I'm trying to play where there's fewer participants, and we can get in with a bit of first mover status.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi,
the other judges ask questions. Go ahead.
Hi, Duncan. It's Dev Shah here. Just to understand more clearly, what exactly is the input that your client receives? Is it the buy or sell decision? Is it a credit score upon which they decide on their own? And how far of a future horizon do you cover in terms of credit analysis?
Right. So what we provide to the client is what I call a signal. So we don't give them a buy and sell recommendation. We don't actually take in their position information either, because I want to avoid any information security issues. I want to have a fast implementation. If somebody wants our product, we can give them a login and password, and they can access it within about half an hour. So we send out, we provide a time series of the probability of default for about an inventory of about 3,500 bonds. And they can use that in any way, shape, or form. And again, I didn't want to replace a whole bunch of processes that a lot of these folks love and hold dear. I just wanted to be an input to that so that they can use it and apply their own judgment. Let me know if that answers your question, then I'll get to the time horizon.
No, that was my next question exactly. What is the time horizon which predicting?
So we produce a probability of default, for example. We produce actually a forward probability of default. So it's what the PD will be 90 days from now over the life of the bond. And we wanted to do over the bond so that we could be as granular as possible. So each bond will have a probability of default calculated on it.
Duncan, we had a question from the audience. They want to know how many customers you have right now, and do you offer trial subscriptions?
So yeah, so we have one customer right now, a hedge fund in Toronto. As I said, we're sending out proposals for 2 companies this week. We do offer trials. We try to paper those trials because we experimented with a trial in December of last year with the bank in the US, and they used it for about 48 hours. And then after that, we had to keep telling them, please use it, please give us feedback, please. And then things started hitting the fan, and we weren't there and didn't have the presence of mind.
So Duncan, one more question. What is the current accuracy of your model?
Right. So we have run back testing, and then we found actually another better, what I thought was a better test, what I think is a better test, is comparing it to CDS spreads. And there we get alignment of about 60% to 70% across 80% of the bonds. And there's this part of that when we have our misses, part of it is because sometimes there's trading activity in CDSs that aren't driven by market factors. It's more like somebody just wanting to go out and buy. But that's our main measure, and we're always tweaking to try and build a better model. And it usually boils down to getting better data. Right.
So that's your back testing. But looking forward, like when are you gonna peak out at your accuracy, like, as you get smarter model?
Yeah. So one of the summer students I've hired, one of his jobs is to build portfolios and to forward test, as we call it. Basically saying we made a prediction about this, and here's the performance that's happened. And to be honest, we've been focused still on the data, and so we haven't started building those portfolios. We've been with us for about 4 weeks, and the data is taking up a lot of time.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
It's Mahendra again. I got a few more questions. Am I allowed, Jeff?
Yeah, go ahead, fire away.
Yeah. Before your slide came up on your competitors, my intuition was that, the likes of Moody's and other rating agencies should be all over this, because it definitely will help them in their rating. As we all know, issuers and advisors to issuers go through rating agencies and get their rating. It has a huge impact on pricing. So why do you see them as your competitors as opposed to collaborators? Because this tells me that they should be using this right now.
Yeah, and they will, certainly Capital IQ will talk about that they do use machine learning. Part of the reason I started the company was I used to work in securitization. All of us lived through 2008. And just the feedback as I worked with credit analysts and fixed income asset managers was that the information provided by Moody's and S&P was usually late, and they had already factored in these things. And yet we were paying, I used to work at a large Canadian bank, we were paying millions of dollars to these companies for the privilege. And so I thought, okay, there's an opportunity here. And part of our differentiation is, like I said, we use the knowledge from the professor at U of T, because he strongly believes that he can build a better model. And so, that's we look at it, we're more focused on this topic than Moody's and S&P. And we spend all of our time focused on trying to build better data. And unfortunately, we won't be charging as much as S&P and Moody's do for their services.
Yeah, well, they've got a sort of an oligopoly, in my opinion. And you're right, they're behind. They're behind. The data is stale dated. It's backward looking. Yours is forward looking. So personally, I think at some point they'll take you out. Okay, that's my prediction.
As long as they take me out dollars.
Last question. Do you see the bond issuers as your client as well?
Yeah, we're looking at not just going to issuers. Like I'd love to get in and talk to the Ontario Financing Authority, for example, but also treasuries, the corporate treasury department, because we can show them here's a relative value comparison. So you may think that you can only invest in this AA. Or this BBB to get this kind of coupon that you want, but we can show, well, no, you can actually invest in a single A, which actually has greater relative value and carries less risk. So we're looking at that target audience as well.
So Duncan, unfortunately, I have to cut you off. We're at the full time. Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. You should reach out to me because I have a couple contacts for you, just that might
Sure.
help you along. So please feel free to do that.
Sure.
But it's time to go. So let yourself out. And judges, take the next 5 minutes to do whatever you got to do, a bio break, fill out the comments on the score sheet, score Duncan's presentation, and we'll be back in 5 minutes to hear from the next presenter. Thanks, Duncan, and good luck. It was
Thank
great.
you, Duncan. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Redo that cycle again, and therefore improving along the way. Now, this facility is going to be no different. We're going to be starting with a first phase of construction that's a little smaller, learning our lessons, and then for the second phase of construction, implementing those key improvements. And so here you can see kind of how our system stacks up to other systems. And with our roadmap, what you can see is in about 5 years, we plan that our R&D roadmap can lead us to competing with hydroponic greenhouses, but having a much higher quality, the quality of an indoor farming produce. What kind of plants are we growing? We are mostly growing mizuna, kale, arugula, red romaine, specialty herbs if our clients need them. But that's not what we're restricted to. We can grow any type of leafy green. And leafy greens make up about 20% of the vegetable wholesale market in Canada. Our plants, the ones we're growing, take about 4 to 5 weeks to grow from a seed to a full plant, weighing about half a pound. So now I'm going to leave you with my colleague, Enoch.
Thank you, Olivier. So I'm going to be talking about the business side. So our business model can be broken down into 2 revenue streams. We sell our facilities upfront in the beginning, and then we offer a management package for our clients. With this business model, we can expand our business without having to invest into capital expenditure, and then we can also generate recurring revenue throughout the lifetime of the system. Our target market consists of large produce distributors, retail chains, and large hospitality companies. These companies already have existing customer base and channels for distribution and sales. That way we can focus on our main core competency of growing. Our system offers various benefits to our customers. It eliminates supply chain disruptions. We have tastier, more nutritious produce. We're cost competitive with traditional farms, and we also offer complete system management on top. All this together gives our clients a 5-year payback, as well as effortless vertical integration without any headaches. This first facility will be built with Bamford Produce. Bamford Produce is Ontario's largest processor, distributor, and importer of produce. We believe that with this partnership, we can scale across many of the urban cities across Canada. Looking into the future, we've already had discussions locally with Daniels, Metro, and Loblaws, and also internationally. We've also have had discussions with a produce distributor out of New York. Currently, we are in the negotiations with the Kuwaiti government about building a facility there, hopefully within this fiscal year. This market is pretty big. In Canada alone, we're looking at about $941 million for our total addressable market. And a lot of the projections for the global vertical farming industry are projected to hit $10 billion by 2025. We're projected to hit $73 million in revenue by 2024 and $12 million in net income. Some of our basic assumptions into this is that we'll have a 25% margin on facility sales and that we'll grow our footprint by 2 times every year. Lastly, the investment cost for this system will be $700,000 for 1,000 pounds of weekly production. Our team has unique backgrounds, and we believe we have the perfect mixture of young creative thinkers and industry veterans with a lot of experience to be able to make vertical farming viable in the near future. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we will now take your questions.
Wow, that was right on time. Well done. You get brownie points, bonus points for that. Okay, so to the panel, questions. Who's got a question for Vertical Farms?
I have a question. Maybe I missed something, but this is all done indoors. There is no sunshine involved. You don't need any sun.
Yes, no, yeah. So yeah, for example, the facility we're building in Mississauga, it's going to be in a warehouse, and then there's the freezer cooler panels that we insulate the whole area. So it's got actually a double bubble kind of design. Yeah, so everything's going to be run on LED in terms of the lighting provided.
Okay. And how do you deal with a plant infection, so some kind of a disease that might take hold within your facility?
Well, yes. So there's kind of the reactive and the reactive weight and the proactive. So in the system, because we have a double bubble system, what we do is that there's actually a sanitization transition zone before you actually go into the facility. So that's kind of more a proactive way to try to mitigate the outside pests from the outside going in. So unlike a field farm where it's essentially open to the environment, we have a transition zone. Also, we have technology in there, mostly actually on the irrigation side, using the special chlorine water, where we're actually going to clean the system once a day to purge any contaminants that might build up over time. And then lastly, if like there's always some off chance that maybe something critical happens, I think we mentioned before, the system is designed so that the whole piece is modular so that we can open access and allow the operator to go in and fix and maintain the system within the day and close it back up and continue operating again and continue to grow.
Okay, and my last question is in terms of nutrition value, a kale grown in your facility versus conventionally grown kale, what is the difference in the nutritional value?
Yes, so what we have on the test we've done with partnership, actually University of Guelph, you actually often, part of it will depend on where the produce is region coming from. The further it's to travel, the less nutritional content is going to be in the plant, and partly also due to how the system's developed. But actually, for stuff like iron content and whatever, you're usually looking around 25 to 50% increase.
Yeah, and we're able to control everything that the plant sees and feels: the humidity of the temperature of the water, temperature of the air, the light spectrum. So we can really refine the quality of that plant.
Okay, thank you.
Nutritionally and aesthetically.
Yes, see, the first round we actually brought some samples. Unfortunately, we can't do it through Zoom.
Any other questions from our panel judges?
Yeah, it's Sanjay. Thanks for your presentation, folks. Good job. My main question comes around having some experience around similar types of operations in the cannabis industry. And, I think the big issue around vertical farming is really energy costs and infrastructure costs and how they compare. I agree, in terms of a lot of what you've said around the localization, lack of travel. But, what work have you done specifically in terms of comparing your production costs, your energy costs on LED lighting, the water recirculation, the temperature control? I've seen a lot of these business plans on cannabis around cannabis ops and grow ops, and I've compared them to outdoor grows as well. And my first question is really about cost control and viability, because the big issue with vertical farms right now is just strictly costs.
Yep.
And then I've got a follow-up question on Dave in his point around nutritional value. But if I can throw that back at you guys.
You want to bring up is it? Okay, I guess this one doesn't break. We have a more broad. I was hoping there's a fine print one, but yeah. So a couple of things compared to cannabis. The amount of LED and mostly actually moisture removal for cannabis is significantly more intensive than actually growing vegetables. So yes, even though our energy cost is going to be significantly higher than greenhouses, that is still factoring. Let me bring up the operating costs here. This is what, if you look at it, the operating cost per pound is factored in. For example, we have a 16-hour light cycle using, if you're familiar with cannabis, we're looking at around 650 to 700 ppf on an LED lights, which is pretty high for vegetables. And yeah, this is 16 hours. So you can see here, factoring in the energy costs, and this is taken from the runtime taken from our actually prototype lab. We're looking at $4.37 right now at this first facility, an operating cost per pound. In the long term, we can actually decrease that down to $2.28, primarily through increasing plant density, the amount of plant in the system per LED fixture, and by reducing operating costs. So yes, we are well cognizant that actually even in this first system, utilities is the highest operating line in terms of the cost. But we counter that by increasing the amount of yield that the plant is able to produce within the same time frame. And then the second, I said you wanted there's a second. Does that answer your question, or do you want me to go a little bit further?
No, I mean, I think we could talk all day about this and really get into numbers, but that gives me some idea of sort of how you're thinking about it.
I guess the last one I put, so the red romaine, I guess we can compare because we have an advisor that's finishing his PhD in the environmental program out of Guelph. So if you look at the red romaine, what we do in a it's a 5 week from seed, but really it's a 3 week from transplant. We get the same size in a 3 week from transplant, which they do in Guelph in 5 weeks, right? So if you look at, which is almost in a bit over a third reduction in energy costs to get the same amount of plant weight. So that's from the yield side, that's how we increase decrease the energy cost by increasing the crop output.
Right, and then the other thing I would dig into, and I don't have to get into detail here in terms of your sort of calcs, is how do you're measuring yield by weight?
Yes, weight per plant, and then it's divided per plant weight, and then it's divided by per week in terms of output.
Okay. Okay. I mean, the other conversation I'd love to get into you guys about in terms of the weight per plant. I mean, when you look at especially hydroponic operations, and you take away the amount of water in those plants compared to an outdoor grow, you're actually, skewing the yield results greatly. But
yes, I mean, the plant
we
might
have a market today that actually accepts the fact that you're buying bigger tomatoes, but you're actually paying for water. So there's some science in there that I'd love to get your comments on.
Yes, well, remember for stuff like the tomatoes, that water saturation is going to be a lot more common in a fruiting plant than a actual vegetative plant, right? That the yield exaggeration is going to be a lot more prominent in stuff like tomatoes than actually leafy greens.
Okay, thanks guys, good job. Really interesting topic.
Other questions from our panel of judges?
So I guess since electricity is it's a big cost, have you looked into, like, Ontario has like some of the highest electricity prices, why start here? Have you looked into other jurisdictions?
Yeah, well, this quick one. We're starting here because this is the market we know, and that's where the client lines up. For the client Bamford, I think I mentioned earlier, he has ambitions to expand the brand across Canada, and an area like really Quebec is probably one of the most lucrative positions in Canada because their cost of hydro is a lot lower, and usually you actually get subsidized by Quebec Hydro.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you thought about using a hybrid solar system?
Yeah.
Well, actually, you want to? Because living used to be in solar. I mean, we have looked at it from the actual, in the system we're going to be building after 2 phases. The amount of energy we need is, I think you'll be able to crack the number, but the cost of putting solar infrastructure to convert that back to LED, the numbers does not make sense right now. I think Olivia can talk a lot more.
I mean, solar in Ontario doesn't make it doesn't make sense without having government subsidies. And the FIT program is no longer in place. Even if the FIT program was in place, the program is to sell back to the utility, and then you'd have to buy your power again. So they're really 2 different businesses.
Yeah.
One's the power business, and one is.
Yeah, it's
ratio of land. You did the calculation before, right?
Yeah. For the amount of energy that we use, we would need the roof of the warehouse 30 times larger than our facility. So it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Mahendra here. You can't see me. The 5-year payback seems a little high. Okay, usually, 5-year payback seems a little high. So the question I have is, on similar installations of these type of investments for your prospective customers, what are they used to? To me, 5-year is a little long. Okay.
I think if you look at traditional kind of low risk farming IRRs, you're looking kind of around the 10%. So you're looking more like in the kind of 10-year payback. So I think with 5 years, it's actually quite attractive in this instance.
Yeah, so for Bamford, there was 5 companies in the running, and the 5-year payback we were able to offer him is the best one. Now, again, there might be a couple companies we're just not aware of, but compared when he's going through the vetting process, we were able to, from a 5-year was the best payback he can also get.
Yeah. Okay, and just on your management fee revenue, I mean, this is ongoing service and support. Is that what it is? I mean, what's the basis? What's the justification?
Yeah, well, for this one, we're actually running the operation too. So in this instance, Bamford, because he's a produce distributor, he doesn't actually have the growing expertise or the staff on hand. So we manage the entire process from the seed to a fully grown plant. We put it in a box, and then that's when we transfer ownership to him.
Guys,
So
I have to
entire facility.
I have to cut you off now. That's the
Oh.
10 minutes and 10 minutes. So thank you very much. Great presentation. Good luck the rest of the way. Let yourself out and stop sharing your screen. And the judges,
Okay,
the
not a problem.
judges are going to spend the next 5 minutes completing their scorecards and making comments so that the presenters, Vertigo, can have the benefit of your feedback.
Okay.
So
Thank you very
we'll be
much.
back in 5 minutes while the judges
Thank you.
fill out their forms. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys. Well
Vertigo.
done.
Thank you.
Good evening. Have a good evening.
Hi, Rob. Give us a few more minutes. We're just 2 minutes till you'll start. And at that time, you can share your screen and you'll have 10 minutes to do your presentation. And then I'll probably rudely cut you off. And there'll be 10 minutes of Q&A. And then I'll cut you off again. And then the judges will be doing what they're doing now, which for the last group, they'll spend 5 minutes filling out scorecards and that sort of thing. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
So we'll just give us a couple more minutes while they do their thing, and then you'll get your shot.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Hi. Good. Hi, Carrie Lynn. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
Everybody's yeah, looks nice. Yeah, it's a nice evening. I'm looking out my backyard through the window here.
Yeah, I'm embracing it. So are you the Zoom organizer?
No, well, we have somebody from Redstone agency that's our kind of event planner that was doing the whole TIE thing. So they quickly shifted to this mode. And so Melanie is here to keep me in the straight and narrow. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm the moderator, but yeah, we're live, by the way. So don't say anything you don't want anybody to hear. We're on.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that
we're broadcasting. There's we have an audience of 17 plus our 9 panelists.
Okay.
I asked the audience why they're here. I'm just curious who they are, and somebody said they pushed the wrong button. So I don't know. I think he was giving me the gears, but But yeah, if the audience is listening, they're not, you know, watching The Bachelor or something. You know, let us know why you're here, whether you're connected with one of the startups or whether, you know, what attracted you. Are you part of TIE? Just curious to know who's interested and who's watching.
Jeff, I
All
thought
right.
you were the Bachelor.
Yeah. All right, guys, I think we got to get started. So we'll turn it over to Pawsey, and away you go, guys. Good luck.
Okay, great.
You can share your screen.
Yeah. Let me know when you can see it. Good?
Yes, it's good. Go ahead. You got it.
Great. All right. Well, thank you for joining, everyone. So this is a picture of my two fur babies, Kingston and Kennedy, here on the left. And I love them with all of my heart, as I'm sure nearly 60% of you on this call love your fur babies at home. But what happens when your pet gets sick? I've racked up over $10,000 in vet bills for my dog. Oops, sorry. Technology problem. For my dog Kingston on the right. And I wish there had been a resource to compare basic vet services and prices and quality of care. Right now, if you go online to look for a vet, your only available options are to read Google or Yelp reviews or search by location, or visit the individual and often outdated clinic websites. And what about the impact of COVID? Well, pet ownership has actually increased over the course of COVID. There's been a lot of people who are isolated seeking that canine or cat companionship. And the Humane Society of Canada actually reported a 20 to 60% increase in adoptions. And shelters across North America have actually run out of pets. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for on the vet revenue front. So vets were not required to actually close down, but they were limited to essential appointments for a few months. And even now, most are practicing social distancing guidelines and more staff are required to do fewer appointments, resulting in lower overall vet revenue because it's not as efficient. Finally, as we saw on the human side, there's an increased demand in virtual care. So we actually ran a survey in partnership with a survey company, TiEQuest, and saw that nearly 40% of pet parents want a telemedicine or mobile appointment options, but less than 20% of vets actually offer telemedicine and less than 10% of vets offer mobile visits. So putting all these things together, we see a financial opportunity as well as a technology opportunity. Enter Pawsey. Pawsey empowers pet parents with the tools to choose the right healthcare provider and to build lifelong relationships with pet parents as their trusted pet health and wellness advisor. In addition to location and reviews, we're building a vet finder that will allow pet parents to find a vet by the clinic type and the desired service, to compare prices and financing options, and to book clinic, mobile, or virtual appointments. So these are the next couple of slides have some screenshots. The first is our Vet Finder Wizard. So it is a proprietary quiz that will ask a few questions and then match pet parents with the best vet for them based on their search criteria. Once they land on the aggregator page, they can filter and sort accordingly. And we will have one vet partner in every neighborhood that will be sorted at the top with some additional advertising features. You might hear my dogs in the background. This is a snapshot of the clinic listing pages, which will have more robust information than is currently available online. So everything will be aggregated into one place. We'll also be exposing things like financing options. So does the clinic take pet insurance? Are there payment plans available or financing loans? And are there preventative or wellness plans available? Additionally, we can expose technology information that we know is important to pet parents and especially younger generations. So does the clinic have things like online appointment bookings, online medical records, and telemedicine? And then finally, the clinics have the option to add video and pictures to add a more personal touch. The pet care market in North America is nearly $80 billion, and it's experienced approximately 25% growth over the last 5 years. It's also grown during the last 2 recessions, which seems like a highly relevant point at this point in time. PASI plans to capture a share of the $20 billion pet health market through clinic referrals, premium clinic listings, and display ads. As you can see here on the right, this is an example of our lead form. So we'll be collecting a referral fee on every successful appointment connection. We see our Clinic Finder as the acquisition tool for vertically integrated service offering that includes telehealth and wellness plan subscriptions. But we plan to launch the Clinic Finder first in densely populated cities that have high incomes and high pet ownership populations. So in Canada, those cities are Toronto, Calgary, and Edmonton. And in the United States, New York City, San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, and Boston. And for those unfamiliar with wellness plans, they are preventative care plans that are kind of the foil to the pet insurance gap. So pet insurance covers accident and illness, and wellness plans, which are sometimes called preventative care plans, cover preventative care for your pet. So it's basically a financing arrangement that allows pet parents to divide the cost of preventative care like vaccinations and annual exams over the course of the year. So you don't end up with like a $500 bill all at once. So corporate chains, which represent approximately 10% of the vet clinic market, such as VCA and Banfield Pet Hospital, which are both owned by Mars, currently do offer wellness plans. And but 90% of the market is independently owned, and there's not currently actually a platform solution for independent clinics to offer wellness plans. There are some new wave brands in select cities in the US, such as New York City and San Francisco, that are offering wellness plans through branded clinics, but there's no white label solution for 90% of the market. So we see this as an opportunity for us down the line once we establish a relationship with vet clinics through our Clinic Finder. Looking at the competitive landscape, we would be the first vet clinic finder in North America. Right now, there are tools like this on the human side, such as ZocDoc in the US for finding a doctor, or Doctor on Demand on the virtual side, but there's no end-to-end solution in vet health, and that's the gap that we aim to fill. PASI is a pre-revenue company, but we launched a website with the goal of starting to build a user base at the end of September. And as you can see, we've seen good user growth and are currently standing at approximately 10,000 monthly active users. On average, we're growing our user base at 42% a month, and most of that is organic users. So it's an increasing rate of unpaid organic users. We've also set up some strategic partnerships, such as these two that are featured here. So the first being Vetstoria. So Vetstoria is an online booking and telemedicine technology that integrates with approximately 80% of vet practice management softwares, which manage vet clinic calendars and medical records. So they're quite big in Europe and in the US. However, they haven't really entered Canada. So we've set up a strategic partnership with them where we have a referral relationship with them, and we will also be integrating their appointment booking technology on our Vet Finder marketplace. Second partnership we'd like to highlight is Sonnet Insurance. So Sonnet is the leading home and auto insurance provider, one of the leading home and auto insurance providers in Canada. Its parent company, Economical, also owns Canada's biggest pet insurer, Petline. And we've set up a strategic partnership with them to do co-promotional activities, as well as provide a strategic group benefits integration. So Sonnet is getting into the workplace group benefits game, and we have entered an agreement with them to provide some of our services to their employee benefits providers.
Carrie Lynn, I hate to do this, but I have to cut you off. So I'm going to turn it over to our panel of judges to ask some questions. Maybe somebody will ask you about the media coverage highlights.
Sorry. Okay.
Fire away, judges. Andrea, how about you? You've been quiet tonight.
I'll definitely start. Like, first of all, I'm a proud pet owner too. I have a dogter, and I have to say one of my friends like just adopted 2 cats during this COVID crisis. So I kind of concur with the inputs there. I was just wondering, can you talk a little bit more about like the referral system with the clinics? Like, how do they work? And maybe we could go back to that slide, then provide more detail into the revenues there.
Yeah, absolutely. So clinic referral fees are on a cost per acquisition basis. So every successful referral, and we would collect anywhere from $100 to $300, depending on the market.
Okay. So typically, like, what would you estimate, like, for these clinics, how much revenue would they make from like one pet per year?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering, how does that measure up against the clinic referrals part?
Yeah, absolutely. So the vet economics do support referrals. So the average client spends $715 per year, and the average lifetime value is around $5,700.
Okay. And for the wellness plans, you were like essentially, it was priced at like the highest part was priced at like $99
a month. Yeah,
per month. Okay, so that kind of goes like that tier goes a little bit beyond what like the average pet owner would spend at the.
Yeah, so there's a premium there that would cover the administration and financing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's Mahendra here. You can't see me.
Hi.
A couple of questions here. Your revenue model, it seems to me it's a referral fee per referral, and then it seems like on that one slide, an advertising revenue. So I just sort of questioned that, and maybe I misunderstood some of your earlier presentation slides, but I would have thought a clinic ought to license your technology platform, your booking platform. So maybe you can help me with the connection. I would have thought you would have some kind of a licensing fee. Okay.
No, so it's a patient acquisition tool. So yeah, it's similar to like Kayak or Expedia with the flight networks.
Okay, all right. So help me tie into the churn rate. The 20%. Excuse me for once a pet owner has a wet, there seem to, I would seem to think they would patronize them more often. It's not something that you would shop around for vets each time your pet needs attention. Okay. So my initial reaction was that 20% churn seems on the high side. But what do I know? It's just.
Well, that stat actually comes from the Ontario Vet Medical Association, and they survey vet clinics. So it's based on patient records, actually.
See, I would have thought your technology and what I think you guys are able to do should be able to reduce that. In my opinion, what you're introducing is an element, what I call element of stickiness. You're providing technologically the connection between a person's pet and the clinic and the service. Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a more informed choice that they're making,
right,
with a lot more research that goes into it. So in theory, yes, there should be an element of stickiness that would make that churn rate go down.
Yeah.
Carolyn, one
and as
question.
a result, also make the adoption of other services along the chain of a pet's life, whether it be the wellness plans or other options, more applicable to Posi to offer as well.
Yeah.
What is your marketing cost, and what % of your overall cost is marketing?
Yeah, so right now we've bootstrapped so far, and so our costs are quite low and not necessarily representative of scaling costs. So we've been relying a lot on organic unpaid traffic, which has indirect costs of paying freelancers to write content and everything. But if we actually sorry, dogs. But if we were to we've also run some paid campaigns, and the cost of an acquired customer through paid channels averages $4.
Okay, it's Mahendra again. Sorry to jump in, but I'm thinking about your relationship with Sonnet. There's got to be a way that you can strengthen that relationship. To me, I also look at what you're offering as possibly a risk management tool. Okay, if pet owners are using this and you tie them to all the vet clinics, from an insurance point of view, you're mitigating risk. You're getting help. Pet owners are getting help quicker, faster, and hopefully better. Okay. So I'm trying to, to me, very simply, and I may be out in left field here, but I'm saying, work with Sonnet somehow such that the premiums could be quite attractive there if the clinics and the pet owners are on your platform. Okay. Now I'm just throwing this thing out, but that's what my gut tells me. Okay. There's gotta be, you gotta figure out a better way, a stronger reason to work with insurers here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not an expert in this, but that's what my instinct tells me. Just listening to you.
Yeah, kind of like building up on your question, Mahendra, do pet insurers have like a pretty good like technological infrastructure for claims and so on, for instance, or is it all kind of done through fax? And because I'm thinking that probably privacy is not such a big problem there, but I like as it would be, with typical healthcare. So I'm just wondering.
Well, it's not, it's one thing, claims processing. I look at it and say, yeah, hey, reduce the number of claims. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Improve the risk of providing better healthcare. If better healthcare is provided to your pet, okay, then you're not going to see any claims, okay? All right. So to me, it's a risk preventive measure tool, okay? That's how I'm thinking about it, okay? I don't have an answer. But this is what goes through my head, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Rob jump in because he's actually the insurance expert on the team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're both spot on. The instinct is correct that the risk management, both from an underwriting perspective and creating better risk, is absolutely going to be there and going to be an opportunity for us with Sonnet and with the insurance channel in general as Posi acquires users and as we advance in our life cycle. And I think, Andrea, to your point, absolutely, there is a need for technology to better equip the process, both in terms of paying claims, but also in terms of, you know, even relative to not necessarily having an adjuster or an individual involved, right? So the whole process from a technology perspective does have the opportunity for improvement, and still does have privacy concerns that need you to be with a, you know, trusted advisor, not to the same extent as human health, but still enough data that it is applicable, which again creates an opportunity for us.
Yeah, because I'm thinking even from a risk perspective, like if you have the data and you're documenting the claims, then you're much better at like making a case for an insurance company.
Absolutely. Those with the data win, and that is the opportunity, particularly on the insurance side. That's definitely the opportunity for Posi as a result of the access to data that we'll have, which on pets will be more than arguably anywhere else, you know, once we've advanced in our life cycle.
Okay.
So guys, I have to cut you off there. That's the 10 minutes of Q&A. So thank you very much, Carrie Lynn and Rob. That was a terrific presentation. You'll have to let yourself out and unshare the screen. The judges are going to spend the next 5 minutes filling out their scorecards and filling in their comments about your presentation. And we'll be back in 5 minutes. So thanks, everybody. Hang on, and we'll be back with the next presentation shortly.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, everybody. Take care.
Did I get kicked out? Oops.
Hi, team.
Hi there, Sophia.
Hi, how are you?
Good. You're live broadcasting, so careful what you say. The judges are just finishing up their scorecards for the last presenter.
Okay.
And we're going to start in about 2 minutes. So at that time, we'll get you to share your screen, and you'll get 10 minutes to do your thing. And then I'll probably rudely interrupt you at 10 minutes, and then the Q&A for 10 minutes, and then you'll be done. So we'll just let the judges do their thing for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get started.
Perfect.
Okay, judges, we're ready for the next presentation. We've got Sophia Stone from Inditech. So Sophia, go ahead and share your screen and away you go. Good luck.
Thank you very much. I have been working in consulting for almost 10 years. And about 4 years ago, I had an epiphany sitting down with one of my clients. She said to me, Sophie, I'm just so tired of hiring consulting firms. I wish I could just hire the consultants. And I asked her a couple more questions, and what I came to realize was she likes the oversight provided by consulting firms, but she struggled with the tiered partnership model from big firms. And I asked a few more questions, and what I found out was she has two ways to bring people into her organization. In this case, I work with financial institutions. On one side, she has what's called the vendor management system. It's a technology platform that's aggregated all of the approved staffing firms that they can use. It's a completely blind process, so it's really good at finding temp staff and backfills, but it fails to find her the expertise she needs, and it doesn't provide oversight. On the other side, through procurement, she doesn't know who the approved boutique consulting firms that she can work with are. And so she ends up having to work with large firms. And large firms, because of that tiered model, means that she often gets stuck managing a junior, fresh out of business school trainee and training them on the job. And so it becomes a costly last option. And what she's forced to do is do the recruitment herself through her network to find the right consultant. I asked a couple more questions, and what I found out was both staffing firms and consulting firms operate as brokers. So let me tell you a little bit about brokers. They are neither on the side of consultants, nor are they on the side of the consulting firms. They're looking out for the third party or themselves. So what they do is create as much distance as possible between the consultant and the hiring manager in order to maximize their margins. And that lack of transparency that they create, it means everybody involved loses trust. So about 3.5 years ago, I set out to solve Joe's problem. I created Indie Group, or the Analog MVP. We are a collective of independent consultants, and it's transparent as much as possible. I'll talk about that in a second. We provide firm level oversight, partner level expertise at rates closer to staffing firms. And everything is transparent from costing and pricing and margins to deliverables and milestones and where we are from a performance standpoint. And as you can see, it worked. One by one, I closed master service agreement after another. But what I quickly realized was I was solving a very small piece of the problem, and it's an industry problem. So I set out to create Inditech. I looked around at other industries, and I realized that brokers are being disrupted by technology at an unprecedented level. So things like Airbnb, Netflix, Uber, these are all examples of broker models that have been disrupted, creating more transparent access. So I knew I wanted to do that, and I had to figure out how. So I joined the Smith School of Business in their Master of Management, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship program in order to build the strongest foundation possible. I started off by doing secondary research. And what I found was out of a $5 trillion contingent workforce or non-FTE spend, $3.5 billion of that is on consultants, either incorporated entities or statements of work, and no one is really directly addressing how to help that market. I engaged in doing primary research by partnering with one of my large financial institutions and interviewing their procurement to really understand this problem a bit better. And what I found was a significant gap in supplier risk. And what that means is after the contract is executed, there's literally no performance management or tracking or analytics. And supplier risk is becoming increasingly scrutinized by OSFI and the Fed. So it's a really big risk hole. In fact, it's so big that this very same client, when presenting the research, said that I had buy-in from a supplier risk technology standpoint for go ahead on a pilot. We're still in discussions on that. So what I did in this program was create IndieTech. We are an AI-driven SaaS consulting management system. So we bring together Joe, my client, with approved consulting firms and vetted independent consultants in one place, so she can find the consultants she needs at rates that she's comfortable with. So let me take you through a little bit more about this customized marketplace. All of the independent consultants are vetted. It's customized for each enterprise. So all of the boutique consulting firms already have master service agreements, and Joe can already work with them. She just doesn't know how to find them. We've automated the engagement process, which means currently, in my current state, about 85 to 90% of my engagement process is largely manual. This creates bottlenecks on the procurement side for smaller contracts, and it also means it takes me a lot of time and effort to get deals done. This will automate the lowest risk contracts. And when I say risk, this is actually the key component or the secret sauce. Don't tell anyone, I know we're live. So I've taken supplier risk. Typically there's a supplier risk assessment, and that's all. We're looking at supplier risk from an ongoing basis and how we can measure and quantify it in order to gamify consulting so that the top firms and the top consultants rise, and we have a constant understanding of where we are on projects, deliverables, and success criteria. So to do this, we're going to launch with Indie Group as the first client. All of the master service agreements and current contracts will be onboarded with a MRR of around 2.5 to 3,000, and that's without doing a single sale. Following which we'll launch enterprise licenses in order for procurement to understand the analytics of the contract. We'll launch boutique suppliers, which will be a subscription-based model. And consultants will also have the ability to enter into value-added subscriptions. Finally, we're going to be looking at ad revenue and how consultants who are available can advertise their services for specific keywords. So I brought up freelance management systems. I've talked about them. I get asked about them a lot. How are you different? Because it's a model that people are familiar with. Freelance management models are much like VMS. It's a buy-sell relationship. But consulting actually adds an extra layer of fiduciary responsibility and oversight, which we're creating and no one else does. The other thing is, most large financial institutions are comfortable using freelance management systems because the consultants can be anywhere in the world on any computer, and the chance of data breach or loss of private client information is just too great. To date, I have significant traction, including this competition. I was accepted into LaunchU, a prestigious accelerator in the city. I've signed an NDA IP agreement, and we're in discussions around co-development with a large US-based Big Four. And as of today, it was just announced, I won the Dare to Dream program through the Smith School of Business, sponsored by CIBC. So our go-to-market is pretty easy. We already have the clients, we already have the revenue, so we're gonna onboard those and push in our existing clients. Once we have that, we'll push our existing client to look at the enterprise, to look at the procurement licensing so that they can have better understanding of the contracts that are being executed, and we'll onboard many of their boutique suppliers. I knew I had to get the team right. So this is something I was very careful with. I brought together a team full of expertise, award-winning expertise from marketing, sales, consulting, enterprise risk management, and successful technology startups.
Sophia, I hate to do it, but this is where I rudely interrupt. So I'm going to turn it over to our judges to ask some questions.
Sure.
Who wants to go first? Judges?
Every time I did it, it was 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
So it's Mahendra here.
Hey.
So let me better understand your business model.
Sure.
To me, it's a combination of enterprise resource management and CRM from a technology perspective for consultants or suppliers that companies and organizations use frequently. Yeah.
Right.
Is that a fair descriptive narrative?
So many of the ERPs have CRMs, and while I would agree with it from a fundamental standpoint, the one thing they don't have is an open marketplace and a transparent marketplace. Mm-hmm. So that means that they have maybe someone in a database and they have maybe an old resume, but you don't know how active they are. You don't know their past engagements, and there's no data or analytics around their performance. So it's a marketplace coupled with, yes, what is.
Okay, so marketplace connects buyer and seller. But what you're saying is you stay with that relationship and providing, let's call it continuing assessment tools,
exactly,
performance evaluation, et cetera, which helps both parties, right?
Yeah, I think that's why I've had so much traction on co-development deals, is because nobody else is doing this. And it's something that they don't actually track, and they're starting to realize they don't have enough vendor data or supplier data.
Well, they may track, but it's very anecdotal, very archaic. You know, paper, manual, gut instinct, what they remember, don't remember. Okay.
So to top on that, when I was doing my interviews, the procurement person said, well, if the contract fails, that hiring manager just won't hire them again. And to me, that doesn't work, because if that hiring manager moves somewhere else or goes to a different organization, all of that knowledge is lost. So why wouldn't we be tracked? Why are we relying on the hiring managers to do the full analytics or understanding of the contracts? It just doesn't make sense from an institutional standpoint.
Yeah, just listening to you, but there's got to be a buy-in, okay? The hiring person versus the person who's responsible for the project internally and continuing managing that relationship with the consultant, contractor, or whatever. Everybody's got to provide feedback, okay? If there's a break in that, then it won't work, right?
So actually currently built into my contracts is oversight and management. That's actually the difference between consulting and staffing. It's required. So how I do that and manage that is with timesheets and status reports. And that is actually going to be built in, and part of the AI will be tracking that and understanding where that is. And in order for those timesheets and status reports to be paid, they have to be approved by that hiring manager. And I consistently also have check-ins. So it's happening already. It's just not being tracked.
Okay. Sorry to jump in, other judges, but you piqued my interest when you said you're in discussions with the Big Four. I'm assuming the Big Four accounting firms and all that.
Yeah.
So the question I have is it for their own use or for their clients?
Both. So they're all building freelance management systems internally, but they don't have, they're losing money every day to freelance management systems and contingent workforce. So what I'm proposing is we pilot with them, because they also hire these type of consultants, and then we would go to market together potentially. So we're still in discussions around what that would look like. I started conversations in Canada, and the buy-in actually is coming from the US. It's been a number of meetings, but the US is interested in potentially launching it globally.
Yeah, listening to you, I wouldn't just restrict it to the big four. There's other firms that ought to be talking to you, or you should be talking to them, depending
To
on
be
your
honest, I started with 3 organizations as testers to figure out where my why would be so that I could mitigate for that. And I haven't gotten a no yet.
Okay.
So I agree. And in fact, I've talked to other organizations, and I did my primary research with all of the banks, and this has a lot of people interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question?
I'm going to go to the end.
Hi, Sophia. It's Sanjay. Good to see you again. I was in the room when you did your first pitch.
That was my very first pitch.
I wanted to get your comment a little bit on when you say you've got consultants that are vetted, and I'd love to get a little bit of insight into what that means.
Sure.
But also just a quick comment on when you say you're risk assessing as part of that vetting process, right? Because that can be a little touchy in terms of the parameters and what that means to your clients versus you versus your platform, et cetera. And then the last part of that is, if you're going to be selling ads, doesn't that kind of take away from the independence of the vetting and the risk management? So just love to get your comments on those few comments that I just threw out there.
Yeah. So, sorry, the first.
Just about a little bit about how you're vetting and how you're managing risk. Really more interested on the risk side, and then the selling of ads kind of
how does that
step on the independence of all that.
So what I'm hearing is, how is this managing risk, and how are you vetting these people? So I'll answer the first around vetting. I work with consultants currently, and we've kept the network really tight. I have certain parameters around how consultants come into my network. We do background checks, credit checks, and there's a number of different strategic areas that we vet. Now, that will continue on to the supplier risk assessment. So we're designing the supplier risk assessment, and I can't talk about it too much because we're going to be going soon for the provisional patent. But essentially, what I would say is the supplier risk assessment is already being done. And we would partner when we did enterprise agreements around that. So we'd have our standard SRMA, but a part of working with an enterprise would be onboarding their SRMA and having the flexibility to do that. That's largely qualitative. Moving on to the project piece, there are certain pieces that are required of a contract, which make it actually a good thing to be monitoring and important to be monitoring regardless of who's involved. The other thing is, I surveyed consultants in my primary research, and all of them said they'd be willing to be assessed if they were able to join a marketplace and be accessed by hiring managers.
Okay, so you just comment on just take 2 minutes more of your time.
Sure.
Specifically the AI-driven piece, is it third-party data you're using? Like, what's the AI, without giving away sort of, I'm not interested in the algorithms, I'm interested in how you're using AI. And then secondly, the selling of ad revenue, because that to me you're trying to do.
So let me answer ad revenue. The scores and rating will still be present. So whether a hiring manager chooses to hire them or not, that there will be an interview in place, and that essentially mitigates that risk. They'll be able to advertise. If the client doesn't choose them, then they're not going to be clicking on the person, or they will and it won't. It's still gamified, so that de-risks it. Going on to the algorithm, because this is open forum, there's a lot that I have been told I can't talk about, but what I would say is it's a looping mechanism to be able to, that's what makes, the risk model itself is going to be built as a standard risk. I specialize in risk and regulatory projects. And I have a team that's surrounded with me that are certified quantitative risk managers. So we're building it similar to the way that many of the credit risk models are using AI. And a good way to think about this is supplier risk is typically qualitative and it's done at one time. Sometimes there's a follow-up, but not really. If you think of the way credit risk is assessed, that's how we're looking at supplier risk.
Okay.
In terms of data.
Sophia, I hate to do it, but I got to give you the hook. Your time is up. It was an excellent presentation, so good luck.
Thank you.
Please unshare your screen and you can leave. And our judges are going to spend the next 5 minutes scoring Sophia's presentation and doing anything else they have to do. And we'll be back in 5 minutes. Judges, please remember to write comments because as I've said in the past, the comments are really the most important thing that these companies take away.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks. It was great. We'll see you soon.
Everybody.
Good luck.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're just waiting for the next company to join us. While we wait, I just want to remind everybody that we've got, oops, don't want that. We want this. We've got our TiEQuest Gala finals on June 29th at 7 p.m. Tickets are complimentary, so please go and register. So, Melanie, what's happening?
Andrew's from TiEQuest has just entered into the wrong link, so I'm just trying to get him onto it as a panelist.
Okay, thank you. I have to say that I've been quite pleased at how smoothly this has gone. Zoom actually does a pretty good job, although they cut off half of Mahendra's head, which maybe that's...
No, it's Mahendra's sitting on a lower chair. You know, I've got this computer screen with the cameras on the top, you know.
Yeah.
And also, it's easier for me to duck, you know, when people start throwing stuff at me.
Right. Well, I'm during the COVID crisis, I was invited onto a weekly sort of M&A deal huddle. There's usually 8 or 10 people, and it's moderated. And the moderator has been very critical, trying to be helpful, but about people's, we'll call it Zoom hygiene. Because, you know, his attitude is, look, we're stuck like this, let's put our best foot forward. So if, you know, he would be all over you, or if you're, you know, look like you're in a witness protection program because of the silhouette, or, you know, he's got all sorts of tips on how to be better.
Oh yeah, no, you know, the virtual etiquette or the Zoom etiquette is developing, it's evolving, you know.
Right, so I think this guy's got a whole, gonna be in a whole business about that, but yeah, so that's why I'm front lit here. Although it's tough with, you know, the reflection. So tomorrow night, we're going to do this all over again. I've got 5 new judges. We've got 5 new companies, and hopefully a new audience, or maybe some of the same people. It's the same link that you can go to for tomorrow night. And when you come on just around 7, we will announce the winner tonight. So our judges, once the last presentation is over, our judges will deliberate, decide amongst themselves, rank the companies, and tell us who the #1 winner tonight is. I don't envy them because, I mean, I've been watching these presentations. One is as good or better than the next. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. But of course, that's what happens once you've gotten down to the top 25 from a pool of 100. And, you know, through self-selection, we always get a pretty strong group of candidates. So I'm pretty pleased with how this is going. And I think people must be impressed with the quality of the companies. All right, Melanie, I can't stretch it any longer. Help me.
Sorry about that. We're just having some technical difficulties just getting Andrews in. So just one moment, bear with me, everyone. Tech can be challenging sometimes.
Okay. Anybody have a joke? Mahendra, we should think about doing a Thai deal huddle. I can moderate it because I've seen what this guy does and learned kind of the techniques. But basically, it's a 1 hour Zoom call. Usually there's about 10 people plus the moderator. And usually he asks a warm-up question and everybody kind of goes around and gives a quick answer. The warm-up question is something like, you know, what's changed in your, you know, what win have you had in business since the COVID? And the second might be, what challenge are you facing? And then the ultimate question that'll go around is, you know, what are you looking for?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Give. Anyhow, something we can talk about offline.
Yeah.
Andrews, you made it.
Yes, I did, but I'm still an attendee, I guess. I can't really. Let me try to share my screen. Let me know if you guys are able to see it.
Yep, let us know. I got to stop sharing my screen. Hang on. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so it does not give me, there you go. It does not give me an option to share yet. It's for some reason, it's pulled me in as an attendee here.
One moment.
Can you switch me over?
Why don't, oh, you switching. I was going to say, email it to me and I'll
do
it.
There we go. There we go.
All right. I made it. Now I made it. All right. Sorry, guys.
All right.
I had the wrong one. Let me know when you guys see my screen. I'm just loading it up. And again, while it's loading, good evening to everybody. Sorry about the technical difficulty. And
we can see it. So you've got 10 minutes.
All right.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I mean, again, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Andrews Moses. I'm the founder and CEO at TenantCube. With property management, as we all know, is 75% public relations and 25% is the admin work, right? And that's exactly what I thought when I got into this kind of market, thinking, you know what, I'm going to get into property management. It's all going to be awesome. But then when I got in, I kind of realized that 25% actually takes 75% of my time. So I wanted to start you guys off with my personal story. So this is where it all started. 3 men arrested for armed robbery. One of the men who was arrested was my first ever tenant. So he actually gave me a property management crash course in 3 months. The things I had to learn about compliance and tenant rights and the kind of rights they have compared to what we do. It was, and then that kind of led me into, you know what, actually, there's not just an admin work that I thought it was overloaded, but also you got to be really good at making decisions. If not, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, right? So I kind of found the ugly part of property management. So then I said, you know what, am I the only one, or is it happening to other landlords as well? So I kind of stepped out and started doing some market research. That's when I kind of came up with the top 3 things as the problem in the market is obviously the outdated technology, which leads to the additional admin work, because there's a lot of moving parts in this business. So it's kind of helping, adding to their woes. And then bad tenants, once you have one bad tenant, it actually drains a lot of your energy and passion and everything and time, so that you actually lose a lot of money as well. So this side, you're dealing with bad tenants and a lot of admin work while you're neglecting the good ones who are paying on time. You don't have time to send them a thank you. You're not building a relationship. So you're losing some good tenants to competition who are probably on top of their game. Right? So then we stepped out and said, okay, let's look at the industry. What is the trend in the industry as the tenant side? So there's changing demographics. 75% of the people are under 45, which means the tenants are now tech savvy. They're all experienced in some form, the Uber experience. They've tried the Airbnb lifestyle and all that. So they're actually expecting better service, not just a kind of a single relationship. I mean, they don't look for a transaction. They want a better relationship with landlords. And obviously the co-living trend is something that's on the rise. Even with COVID, I think it's going to fast track it, so that people are actually coming together to rent places and kind of sharing that house together. That's something that we thought we understand that there's a big problem. And then the trend is also changing. The demographics is also changing. So we kind of thought, you know what, can we solve this? So we said, if we build a good rental experience platform that can help both landlords and tenants, can kind of proactively and real-time engage, that there is an opportunity. So let's build something where a landlord can actually list the property easily, onboard the tenants online using mobile app or simple online web applications, build a better communication channel, a easy real-time communication channel. And when there is issues in the house, how can we kind of close that loop that the tenant can easily submit the question, have that answered, and everything kind of goes back into the entire experience from both the landlord and the tenant perspective. And that's where the kind of journey of TenantCube really started. We wanted to build a multi-dimensional rental experience. Now, obviously, we wanted to look at the market before we kind of go all in. We said, is there a big market? Then we did some research on the number of units available across North America, compared it. We kind of landed up with almost like $11 billion market just in North America alone, right? This is only residential. We're not even looking at commercial yet. And then most of them, if you say 85 to 90% of them are the medium or small sized businesses, because property management is something that anybody can be a property manager. There's not much licensing required. So there's a lot of small and mid-sized businesses. That leaves about 85 to 90% of the market. And then we kind of came up with a plan and said, you know what, let's build a plan in the next 8 years. We have a plan to reach 1% of this market share, which will leave us with about $80 million in annual recurring revenue. It is a massive market. So we said, okay, let's segment it first, right? I mean, let's look at what are the real players in the market. And so I kind of segmented into 3 different options. One is above 5,000 units. On the right-hand side, you'll see less than 500. So if you look at it, Yardi, which is obviously the Salesforce, the CRM, almost like the Yardi Salesforce of the property management, they were built in the year I was born. So that's how outdated the technology is. Obviously, they've been buying companies and trying to add additional feature. Whereas, again, another company, RealPage, publicly traded, a few $1 billion in revenue. Same way they acquired to build new features. Buildium came along, started off with a small business, moved upstream, got into this market, and then got bought out by RealPage for $600 million last year. And then there are some small players in the market who are catering to individual landlords who are trying to build everything for everybody so that it's not really a complete end-to-end experience platform. So we figured out that there is kind of a neglected market that is sitting out there that can actually be disrupted. So we wanted to build TenantCube that actually sits right into the kind of the ignored market space. And that's kind of where we wanted to play. And how do we want to differentiate ourselves? Obviously, build a mobile first, because that is the experience. Everybody today has a mobile application. And given that the property management space is not tech savvy, but people know how to use a smartphone compared to a laptop. So we said, why not build it on the mobile front? And the biggest piece that a lot of people have missed is the AI and machine learning. There's a lot of data that sits on related to the units and the rents and whatever data that's sitting there. Nobody's really using that data. So we wanted to use that data to make proactive suggestions and help people use it. And obviously, our motto is to build it anything easy to use, less click, easy options. And that's what we want to build. And one thing we looked at in the market is there's not much collaboration in the market, right? So if you look at one app, you do everything with them or nothing. So we said, why not build a collaborative solution that can actually initially work with all the players in the market? Like if you have a property management solution, like one of our lead customers, they use Yardi. However, for rental experience, they use TenantCube. They have a listing website provider. They use TenantCube for experience. So we can actually work collaboratively with other players in the market to help get to our niche and build our marketplace, market space, and then slowly grow from there. Right? And that's kind of our initial setup. And for that, we actually needed to build most of the companies, if you look, a lot of them have actually great experience. They have property managers building property management solution. We wanted to put a team that's actually built SaaS products, software products in the past. And that's where I'm from, Freshworks. It is a unicorn from, I was one of the founding teams there. We were pre-IPO this year, about close to $3.5 to $4 billion valuation from the last round. And I built that company out from scratch. I was the go-to-market leader there. Vijay has built a few startups, multi-million-dollar products in Toronto. He's from Zoho. That's where we both met. We both have that DNA to build online solutions and make it scale. And we brought in Karthik, who's a product manager from eBay, who kind of gives us the structure of let's build it in different sprints and whatnot. Giant was one of the best UI developers that I've worked with when I was at Freshworks. He built most of the early UI and UX at Freshworks. We brought him on board. And we wanted to add Darren, who's a kind of an expert in the $0 to $1 million sales, where he gets companies, SaaS companies, from $0 to $1 million. And we have actually onboarded a couple of, one for marketing and one lead engineer as well. We're constantly actively hiring for multiple roles to kind of fill in the gap in our team. Overall, we just wanted to put a team that actually can go there, build a product, and scale it. Now, from respect to our customers, we've got a lot of traction in different segments. Customers who are moving from Buildium to our product. We have individual landlords who are moving to our site. And we also have a few individual landlords like email and Excel sheet. They're moving to our platform. And we have in our mid-market, we have some beta customers who have already kind of registered, getting ready. And we have our lead customer who's over 18,000 units across Ontario. And investors, we have Sequoia Scout. Sequoia is the top tier VC. Our customer Panoramic has invested in us as well. We raised a small round from Niagara Angel Network in Niagara Falls, obviously. And Axel, another tier 1 VC, we are part of their first SaaS cohort. So we've got a small grant, and we are in discussions to raise our seed round. And that's kind of been our hustle. And in the next 2-3 months, we will have about 30,000 units going live on our platform. And that's all I had for today. I wanted to kind of wrap it up and share my contact information and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. What a great presentation. So over to our panel of judges. Anybody have any questions for Andrews and TenantQ?
It's Mahindra. So in a nutshell, what's your revenue model?
So we will be charging per unit. So there will be a per unit charge so that it's scalable from anybody who's at a 10, let's say if they're at the 10 unit, there'll probably be a freemium. And once they get to a certain stage, we will charge them per unit.
Okay, so it's a monthly or annual fee to the landlord per unit.
Per unit, it will be a monthly fee, correct?
Okay, okay. And do you vary your fees based on the complexity and the size of the building and
Correct.
Number of tenancies?
And also the kind of feature set as well, right? So we'll have like a tiered feature set. So depending on if they want everything, like the complete entire experience, you get a price monthly. If it's just a basic application or rental application, there will be a price. So there'll be a tiered pricing depending on the number of units and the kind of features they want.
Yeah. Okay. So this is really, at the end of the day, it's really a tenant management tool, right?
Correct, yeah. It's almost like complete tenant management from the time they decide to even inquire to your property all the way till the time they submit a notice to vacate your property. So we do everything from kind of onboarding them to offboarding them off your rental property. And again, it's just to build that kind of credibility and the kind of interaction and the experience so that they have that smile in their face when they stay at your property.
But it's also a communication and interaction tool, and you probably have features that tenants are actively engaged, right?
Right, absolutely. So something like paying rent monthly. So if they want to pay the rent, they should be able to easily use our app to pay rents. And if they have a work order, they can snap a picture, submit it right into our app. So we built features that will kind of help the stickiness, you say, so that the tenants are actively using our app. And if there is a notification from a landlord side, or if they have an appointment to show the property to someone, it can be done right in the app so that it's, again, a reminder just pops up for both sides. Yeah. So at the end of the day, just being more proactive and showing the tenant that you actually care for them.
Yeah, but this is not just restricted to tenants. I mean, it's also, high density buildings, where condominiums and condo owners, it's equally as applicable, right?
Absolutely. So announcements, water shutdowns, all that can be pushed by buildings or by area, and work order notifications and all that will be automated. The entire engine will be built, correct?
Okay. And do you also, does it also have functionality to provide value-added services and support? Because typically the issue here is, depending if you're a condo owner, even if you're a tenant, there's certain things the landlord or the property manager won't look after. It's the responsibility of the occupant. Correct. And the occupant tenant doesn't know where to find or get help, okay?
Yep, absolutely. And that's part of our growth strategy as well. So initially onboarding tenants and landlords to our platform. once the data is built, we can actually add value-added services and vendors and kind of build a marketplace to help tenants find. So for example, their rental insurance can be bought on our platform. If they want a moving service, they can find somebody who can give them a deal. So that's part of our growth strategy once we acquire some tenants and landlords on our platform. Yes.
Any other questions, judges? So Moses, tell me about your traction to date.
So if you look at our traction, we have, like I said, about 30,000 units committed to go on our platform in the next 2-3 months. What we have done right now is kind of on the early closed beta stage. We work with companies that I listed there, like Panoramic and the other closed beta customers that we have, worth about 25,000 to 30,000 units that we are actually testing the platform and having a closed beta with. When we launch, we will kind of take that and push it across the Ontario. I mean, we want to start off in a focused Ontario and then expand it across Canada. That's the.
So what will 2021 revenue look like?
In 2021, we were estimating at least about 75 to 100K. I would say 50 to 75K in MRR.
An MRR.
Correct.
And the cost of acquisition, like what's going to cost you to get to 75,000 MRR?
I mean, at this point, it's all research, right? So we've just done some high-level research. So we don't have an exact value that we can put on it. But what we have done so far, our reach has been, we have been experts in outbound, and we have actually acquired organically with our content and kind of reaching out to people on LinkedIn without spending too much on online ads. And that's been our market. And actually, we're also building up partnerships, and that's going to be one of the areas where we're going to invest in a partnership which can actually land us multiple landlords and multiple tenant groups instead of going one after the other. So that'll be a kind of, we don't have an exact number on the exact value that I can give you, but we're going to be much cost effective given the partnership and the co-branding that we're building with some of our partners.
And are you thinking in terms of your rollout strategy to pick certain like markets, and so do Toronto first or do some other city first and then saturate that market and then move to the next, or is it really just wherever you can get the buildings?
Initially we focused on this market because we know that, I mean, our current database is here, like our customers are from here as well, because we also wanted to build some compliance around notices and automate all that process as well. So initially we'll focus on high density in Ontario, like Toronto, and then slowly move on to higher density across Canada and then expand it into the US. And that's kind of been our go-to-market strategy so far.
Yeah. So it's Mahendra again. To what extent is your platform built or has features that deals with, let's call it legal and regulatory matters as it pertains to, Landlord-Tenant Act and all that? Because of my experience, anecdotal, is that, tenant management, that usually is a big issue,
Yeah,
So,
it is a lot of, I mean, what we will build is we won't take legal responsibility in the sense we're not a service provider. However, we will have a framework that can actually help a new landlord kind of follow the guidelines. We'll have like a workflow that says you have to give certain notice on certain dates, day 1, day 14. So we can actually build a workflow within our system. However, it's not our responsibility, or we don't take legal responsibility to kind of take over that as a service. I totally understand it. And that's kind of feedback been from our landlords as well, that if we can tell them exactly on what date, what notices has to be given, it avoids them a lot of pain so that they don't have to restart it next month. Right?
Yeah, it's a support tool, it helps them do their job better. Okay.
Exactly. So for example, just if you come in, if it's your job to provide notices, you come in, I got to give X number of L4s and X number of N9s today. It kind of makes your job easier, right? It's almost like gets you a task that tells you, make sure don't miss out on any of these notices.
So I'm going to ask a very topical question. Sure. The impact of COVID-19, okay? Some of us believe the world has changed as we knew it, okay?
Correct.
So how does that impact your business?
I mean, there's two things that it's actually helping us. The downtime is actually helping us build the product, work with our closed beta, make the product more stable before we kind of throw it out there for the public to use it. That's one thing. And the other thing is most of our application that we're doing is all going to move them. I mean, digitalize somebody who's using paper, who's trying to send PDFs, print stuff across, which is actually COVID will actually accelerate our growth because everything can be done online. So right now, if you're viewing a house virtually, you can view it virtually, you like it, you should be able to simply apply in a click of a button. And that's what we can provide as a tenant. So that experience will be that you can quickly view a house, apply online from your smartphone, and get picked up for that house or selected for that house or move on and find something else. So, right. And that's kind of, it will actually accelerate us. And we are super excited about, I mean, we can't say excited. COVID has actually done a lot of other negatives in terms of some of the fundraising and all that we had and planned and stuff. However, we take it as a great opportunity for us to use that downtime to get our product ready and build and kind of pivot and build more digitalizing features that will help us down the road.
Okay, Jeff, can I ask one more question?
That's all we have time for. So we've only got a minute. So go ahead.
Okay, the one of the investors you have is also your first customer. Okay.
Correct.
Do they have any special rights, exclusivity, or whatever?
No.
No? Okay.
They're like every other investor. I mean, they actually came in pretty late to the game. They were kind of helping us, but then as they saw traction and as they saw that we're building, and when we showed them the design is when they wowed, when they got wowed and said, you know what, okay, we gotta invest in this thing.
Okay.
Right? So that's why they got it pretty late.
Well, Andrews, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. Please unshare your screen and leave. It's now time for the judges to do their scoring of your presentation and then the deliberation on the others. And we have to choose a winner. So thanks a lot. It was a
Thanks, Jeff, for making it sound nice to kick me out. Just a polished way of kicking me out. Unscared and get out of here. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Take care, Andrews. So just a goodbye to our audience. We're going to kick you out in a minute, but I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to remind you that tomorrow night we're doing it all over again with 5 more companies and 5 new judges. And so please join us and let your friends know. Also, please remember on June 29th, we're going to do the finals, same time. It's Monday, 2 weeks today. Lastly, I want to thank the Royal Bank. They've been a terrific supporter throughout. And that's it. So good night to our audience, and just ask the judges to stay for a few minutes while we sort this all out. Okay, Melanie, pull the ripcord.
No, all is good. Just give me one moment to just escort the last of the attendees out, and then I'll just let you guys know.
Okay. I think that's it. I think it's just us. Yeah, that's it. It's just us.
Alrighty, good to go.
Okay, thanks. I thought it went very well, Melanie. Thank you. I mean, listen, we had a few little blips, but I thought it was really good. I thought the companies were excellent. So judges, why don't you spend 3 or 4 minutes scoring the last presentation if you need it. And then you got some tough decisions to make. What the goal for us right now is to fill out one piece of paper that Melanie is our kind of scribe. And I want you to rank the companies 1 to 5 in your order of preference. And everybody, I guess, should do it themselves, and then we can all show each other what we came up with, and then we'll negotiate. So go ahead and do your thing, and we'll tell us when you're ready. Did everybody hear all 5 presentations? Sanjay, did you get the first one?
No, I came in on the tail end of that one, unfortunately. My apologies. So,
I hope that's not going to be an issue. So let's see what happens.
I mean, this is recorded. I'm happy to review it tonight and get comments back. And
well, let's just see what happens, and if necessary, we'll do that. Just to remind everybody, we had Migrations, which was the financial quant bond artificial intelligence company. Then we had Vertical Farms, which is like the name suggests, it's vertical farming. We had Pawsey, the pet parent platform, the PPP, the pet parent platform. And then we had Indie-Tech, the consulting, the Uber for consulting and consultants. And then TenantCube, the landlord-tenant residential platform. Everybody's looking at me. Is everybody ready, or does anybody still need time?
Ready.
I'm good.
Okay, so why don't we start with, let's go around the loop. I'll go from my left, which is Andrea.
Okay.
What's your order? First, second, third, fourth, fifth?
Yeah. So starting with the first, like TenantCube, Pawsey, Migrations, Vertical Farm, and Indie-Tech.
Okay. Dev?
Yeah, number 1 is TenantCube. Number 2 is Migrations. Number 3 is Indie-Tech. Number 4 is Pawsey. And number 5 is Vertical Farms.
Parneet?
Number 1 is Migrations. Number 2 is TenantCube. Number 3 is Indie-Tech. 4 is Pawsey, and 5 is Vertical Farms.
Sanjay?
I'll rank 4. To me, TenantCube was 1, Indie-Tech was 2, Vertical Farms was a more distant 3, and Pawsey to me was a distant 4.
And Mahendra?
TenantCube, Pawsey, Migrations, Indie-Tech, and Vertical.
Okay, so I think we had, most people thought TenantCube was, like, I think 5 or 4 people said TenantCube was 1, and then I think 1 person said Migrations. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, it's up to you guys, but does anybody object to pushing TenantCube through? It seems like even though they were, whoever picked Migrations, TenantCube was number 2.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, it just feels, does anyone object? Is that seems to be the consensus?
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so number 1 is TenantCube. Number 2, is it Migrations?
I was leaning towards Pawsey personally, but
I heard Migrations number 2.
What did you say, Dev? I'm sorry.
I said that my number 2 is Migrations.
Yeah, mine was Pawsey.
Maybe you want to call each company name and count how many people raise their hands. Is that
Okay.
accurate?
Okay,
accurate
so
count?
that's fine. Good idea. So Migrations, all those in favor for Migrations, put up your hand.
As what? As number 1?
No, it's number 2.
Oh, number 2, okay, yeah.
You got 2. And for Pawsey, what other nominees are there? Sanjay, where are you?
I had Indie-Tech.
And Mahendra, who was your second place? Gone. Oh, he's back. Well, it seems to me that the consensus is Migrations followed by Pawsey.
I had Indie-Tech as number 3, but Pawsey was 4. Very close, actually.
Then Indie-Tech, and then who's last? It's Vertical.
Vertical was last for me, at least, yeah.
So Melanie, will you just remind me what I just said? We said
Yeah, so we said TenantCube as number 1, migrations as number 2, Pawsey as number 3, Indie as number 4, and Vertigo Farms as number 5.
Yeah. Does anybody object to that? Can we agree to that as our consensus?
I'm okay, yeah.
Yeah, same here.
All right, we have a winner.
All right.
TenantCube. So let's keep it under wraps, Melanie, till tomorrow. I'll announce it. And then I don't think we need to tell people that they finished second, third, fourth. Like it does, I don't think there's any, like everybody was second. They all tied for second. I mean, there's nothing turns on it. So I don't think there's any point in telling them unless they really want to know. But we'll send them the comments. So if you guys can just, hopefully it's legible, if you can send it to Melanie so she can circulate it to them and give them their comments. And Melanie, is there anything else we got to talk about now?
No, I don't think so. Do you want me to let TenantCube know tomorrow during the day before the event?
I thought it was Jeff was going to let them know.
I don't want them to know. I want them to tune in and have all their friends and family tune in.
Sounds good.
This is American Idol, you know. we're going for, you know, maximum suspense.
Sounds like a plan.
If it doesn't feel right after tomorrow, we'll do it differently for Wednesday. But let's have some fun with it.
Great.
Absolutely.
Can the comments go in tomorrow, or is it tonight?
You can
No,
send them
you can send them to me anytime this week.
Okay.
Guys, thank you. You did a great job. Great questions. I really thought they were all pretty impressive. Like I'm going to send migrations to my son who's a hedge fund manager and just created a product that he announced, like that they launched last week. That's exactly what this does. Like this information is what they created.
Right.
He's created a fund of funds that's investing in these bonds. And they've identified 9 managers in the US and Europe and elsewhere who do this kind of strategy, probably would be customers for this product. That this it's exactly what migrations does. So
what is the name of your son's firm? What is it
he
called?
works for Seidel Bank,
Seidel.
which is a big sort of family office, private wealth.
Yes.
Bank, but
Seidel Bank and Private Trust. Yeah, I know those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So he manages about $11 billion, and it's, you know, it's typical spread about all sorts of things, but because of the COVID, he's identified, this is the product he's created because he's identified this unique niche. This guy didn't say that, but there's apparently this incredible historical arbitrage on these bonds because of the recessions. And my son showed me this presentation.